Whoa. Huh. Hey there, Teen Streeters. My name is Darren. You probably don't know me, but if you do know me, it probably means you've been stalking my Facebook, which is just weird and creepy. But that's okay. I'm Darren, and I'm really looking forward to hanging out on Teen Street with us, which is now only a couple weeks away. We're going to be in the freezing cold Warwick. That's why I got this jacket, also because I can hide in the grass. And I can sneak up on people if I need to. It's kind of camouflage, it's what I like. But it's actually also really important because this represents an army, this represents soldiers, this represents what we're going to be looking at on Teen Street, a guy named Joshua. Now, before we get into that, I have a question for you. Have you ever had the cheesy toast at Sizzler? Oh, you know, the one that's got the kind of crispy edges, the oily goodness, the stringy cheese that kind of goes over the edges like lava? Oh, well, it is a beautiful entree for an incredible main meal. Now, I may not be as delicious or as scrumptious as cheesy toast, but I want to give you a bit of entree about the book of Joshua. It's all about God and a young guy called Joshua. I'm sure his mates probably called him Josh. Now, Joshua, the book was written about 3,400 years ago. That's like when your grandma's friend Cheryl, her great-great-grandmas, and a bit further back were alive. Now, the book was written as this big story. Now, we love stories, right? Stories of conquest, like Lord of the Rings, or something like Braveheart, or Girls, Dear John, or Pearl Harbor, or something like Love. Well, story that takes place about a man chosen by God to kind of lead a bunch of people into the promised land of Canaan. Now, you say, what's Canaan? Well, Canaan was this land that was given back to a guy, promised to a guy back a few centuries earlier, a guy named Abraham. God came to him and said, Abraham, I'm going to bless you, I'm going to give you a land, and I'm going to give you an inheritance. A few centuries later, Joshua arrives on the scene as the man to lead them into that promised land. It'd be a land where there'd be rest, there'd be a land where there'd be prosperity, it'd be a land of abundance, flowing with milk and honey, and God's people were going to be in this land. However, there are inhabitants in there at the moment, so God needed to conquer the land so his people could be fully free to live and worship God. But who was Joshua? Who was he? Well, he was one of the Israelites who was taken out of captivity about 40 years earlier. He was a slave who was freed, and then he wandered the desert for about 40 years under the leadership of Moses. And that's when he learned a lot of his skills, learned a lot about godly character and leadership. And in that time, he was the slave who became a servant, who became a spy, who became a scout, and ultimately he became this soldier, military leader, to lead God's people and so they would fulfill the promises that God had for them. Joshua was this incredible guy, and he writes this incredible book kind of showing us what it means to fully rely on God. Joshua had to rely on God. He couldn't win the battles himself. He couldn't get into this land on his own 2 feet. He needed God. And so the story is God's faithfulness. The story, whilst Joshua may be the main character, it doesn't end on him, it ends on God. God's faithfulness in fulfilling his promises to his people. The book of Joshua, it tells us ultimately what it means to worship God and live life his way. It's incredible. And I'm excited to be part of the team that gets to share that and learn with you as we encourage one another, as we engage in gospel community, as we learn what it means to live life God's way. It's like crossing a bridge. There's a land over there that God's got for us. And we might find ourselves here, but God wants to take us there. I'm Darren Dakis from Teen Street. I'll be seeing you soon. Catch you later. Gotta go play army now.